Hanukkah 5781. Such a privilege to be joining Emunah, a foundation and organization that I've had the great privilege and zchut and merit to watch the greatness of what all of them are doing. Whereas if it's in different challenges in Israel, different families, different children homes, different needs of the Jewish people, just watching people that are just totally selfless and have a 100% commitment to the people of Am Israel. And together with them also just a great appreciation to my great masters, Michael Ryler and Ezra Gatovnik, that gave me the opportunity to join with Emunah in the summers, to be in the children homes, to really see firsthand all the greatness that has been built. So the Hanukkah general is clear. We all know that Hanukkah, there's a great miracle that there was a jug of oil that was saved. We know that there's an idea of a war against the Greeks. The big things are clear. But one thing that I've learned through, again, my masters, Michael and Ezra, is that one of the things that we have to realize is that greatness is in the details. And that although we might know the big picture, sometimes the smaller details reveal a much greater secret. Yeah, we know the big story. We know the war against the Greeks. We know the story of Beit HaMikdash. We know the story of the menorah. But sometimes if we look at some minor details that seem minute, insignificant, sometimes from them we can reveal maybe the biggest secrets about Hanukkah. And that's what we want to try and do, to really look at some of the smaller secrets, details of Hanukkah, and through them try to reveal another layer of Hanukkah's greatness. And so we know that there are different halachot, details that relate to Hanukkah. The first thing we know is that our entrance is the core of what Hanukkah is about. And in general, the mezuzah is on the right side. And we know that in general, the idea of right is going to be the strong side. Like we know from Remember the Titans, right side, strong side. But there's another mitzvah called Hanukkah that we transition from the right and we go to the left side, to the weaker side, to the unseen side, to the areas that maybe some people aren't aware of or try to hide. And that is something that we have to look into. What is it that suddenly we got to the Hanukkah candles and it's so important that we davka go and light them on the left side, on the unseen, on the hidden side, on the weaker side? Why do we go there? So that's one detailed question. Another detailed question about Hanukkah is the ideal height that we're supposed to light our Hanukkah menorah. We know that in Masechet Sukkah, Daf Bet Amud Aleph, there's a halacha about the Sukkah, that the Sukkah must be above 10 tefachim. That if you're building a Sukkah, it needs to be above 10. And the reasoning is that we say that Hashem in Masechet Sukkah, Daf Dalid, Amud Bet, the Gemara explains that it needs to be above 10 tefachim because Hashem as if appears only above 10. And underneath 10 is an area where as if Hashem doesn't appear. So the whole idea of our Sukkah is we're trying to enter into the zone of where Hashem is. But this is where things get complicated. The Hanukkah menorah, ideally, is supposed to be lit underneath 10 tefachim. And so the obvious reality is, why are we lighting the menorah in an area that is specifically known as an area that Hashem does not appear? It's an area where Hashem is not revealing himself, where the good things aren't seen. And we're lighting our menorahs specifically in the area that's underneath 10 tefachim. And that means, just on a basic halachic level, that we're lighting our menorah in an area that's lower than something like 2 feet. And so you might think it's a joke, but Bezrat Hashem with my family, when we light in the old city, that we try as much as possible to light our Hanukkah menorah in a push-up position, underneath 10 tefachim, just like the halacha teaches. So that's the second detail that we want to try and reveal to get the secret of Hanukkah. And the third one is the timing of Hanukkah. So if we look in Masechet Avodah Zarah, Daf Chet, the Gemara there teaches that when Adam Arishon was in the world, so he was born on Rosh Hashanah, and the days were pretty long. And he sees that after he sinned, the days are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And suddenly he gets to the timing of Hanukkah, of Tevet, and he realizes that there's much more dark than light, much more darkness. And he starts to mourn, and he thinks that the world is over, it's done, and that his sin caused darkness, and it caused destruction. And now that darkness is a revelation of his sin. And so he thinks the darkness is his fault. And he sits for 8 days and he mourns. At the end of the 8 days, he realizes that suddenly the days are getting longer again. And it's a natural thing. It's not his fault, it's nature. And he celebrates for 8 days. And those 8 days are the 8 days of Hanukkah. And so it's a Gemara that is interesting, and really what it's teaching us is that in nature, the longest nights are Hanukkah. And those are the nights where we begin to light our candles, where we realize that we've reached the darkest points of nature, and we start to realize that the darkness is natural. It's a given present by Hashem, and it's something that we have to utilize, and something that we have to get excited about, and something that we have to be aware of, and that is the timing of the Hanukkah candles. And the last thing that is a detail that we want to try and focus on in Hanukkah is if we ever want to reveal a secret of a holiday, it's important to try and recognize how is it different than all others. And there is one thing that really differentiates Hanukkah from the other holidays. If we look, for example, on Purim, to celebrate Purim, the mitzvot, which is Matanot Le'Evyonim, Mikra Megillah, Mishteh, and Mishloach Manot, you need someone else. And so really, that's the only holiday that you can't celebrate alone. So that's the secret of Purim, that it needs to be focused on another person. When we get to Hanukkah, there's something that obviously seems to be insignificant to the Chag, which is that the only holiday that in order to celebrate it, you need a bayit, you need a house, is Hanukkah. You can celebrate Pesach in Beit HaMikdash, you don't need to be home. You could celebrate Shavuot in your shul. You could celebrate Purim in the street. Hanukkah, you cannot light the candles if it's not in a bayit. And so the definition of Hanukkah is that you're in need of the bayit. You're in need of the home. And so just to review the 4 things that are details that we might have paid attention to, we might have not. The first detail is the area that we light our candles. The first aspect is that we light it underneath 10 tefachim, which is very, very low, very, very difficult, very unseen, very broken. The second thing we said is that we light the Hanukkah candles underneath 10 tefachim, which according to the Gemara in Masechet Sukkah is the area where Hashem does not appear. The third thing we said is that it's the longest nights of the year. And the fourth thing we said is that in order to celebrate Hanukkah, we need to have a home. And so the reason that these 4 details seem to be so insignificant is because what do they have anything to do with Hanukkah? There was a huge war between the Greeks and the Jews. So you want to celebrate in the street and run around and, celebrate the beauty of the nation of Israel and, put soldiers on your shoulders and dance around. Great. I get it. You want to celebrate lighting candles? Beautiful. What does it have anything to do with where we light them, when we light them? All these issues seem to be irrelevant to the Chag of Hanukkah. And maybe they're actually not irrelevant. They're the deepest secret of what Hanukkah is all about. And so how is these four things the secret of Hanukkah? So we know that in the story of Hanukkah, we have a tremendous world war between two mindsets. The one is called the Greek culture. The Greek culture fought against certain mitzvot. One of the mitzvot they fight against is the mitzvah of Brit Milah. It's famous. Why do they fight against Brit Milah? The first action demanded of Avram Avinu to do is to do a Brit Milah. And when he's doing a Brit Milah, what he's making himself state to the world is that man is incomplete. And that when the first mitzvah is defining the world of mitzvot, the need for 613 mitzvot, for lighting our Shabbat candles, for giving tzedakah, the need for these mitzvot is to be aware of the fact that man is incomplete. That the mitzvah Brit Milah, as the paradigm of mitzvot, is revealing to us that the need for so many mitzvot is to reveal to us our imperfection. That, okay, you want to connect to God, but you cannot because you are incomplete and you need many, many tools and many vessels to enable you to connect and to relate between you and Hashem. And so the Greeks were fighting that mitzvah. And their message was very simple. Man is strong. And I'll prove man's strength from his 8-pack. If we ever look at pictures from the Greek culture, they all have 8-packs. They're tremendously strong. They'll elevate man's mind in order for man to control the world, to be able to give, to be able to be great, to be able to be perfect. And it sounds amazing. It sounds like an incredible message. A message that every single one of us would probably give over to our children. You're special, you're unique, you're great, you can do this, and you can do that, and you could build this, and you could build that. And so really, the Greeks seem to be very, 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 very strong, and actually very modern. This idea of man's ability to change, to affect, and to elevate. But Am Yisrael celebrate the Brit Milah. And we recognize that our greatness is our imperfection. The most beautiful part of man's growth is not when he realizes his ability, but when he's not afraid of his disabilities. Man's greatness is not in all the things that he builds, but in his ability to ask for help. Man's greatness is not seen in his titles, but it's seen in his celebration of other people's titles. The Yehudi Kadosh from Pshischa, he would say, how do you know someone's a real Jew? There are probably many answers. His answer is very, very strong. How do you know if someone's a real Jew? If he's happy that there's another. If he gets so excited from another people's growth. If he's standing in shul and he's not that motivated, he's not excited, but he sees another person that is totally into the davening, and he gets as excited from the other person's growth as if it's his own. That's the definition of a Yehudi. His ability to recognize that he is in need, that he needs help, that he cannot succeed alone, that he needs to recognize his imperfection. And so the war between the Greeks and the Jews, yes, it was about the menorah, and it was about oil, and it was about Beit HaMikdash, but underlining all of these aspects, all of these elements, was one big war. Is man perfect because he has great titles, because he has a phone that gives him 8,000 friends, because he can have 8 meals a day, because he can write himself a journal of all the greatest things he's done? Or is man's perfection his awareness that he's part of the journey, that he's another chain in another part of the big chain? And that doesn't mean he's small. It means that his greatness is that he's part of something bigger. That because he's imperfect, he's in the need of relationships, connections. And so that's the war. So what do we do on Hanukkah? Hanukkah says, obviously, thank my wife for the water, B'ezrat Hashem. We know that the question of Hanukkah is that through the halachot and the details, we're revealing the inner message of what Hanukkah is all about. And the inner message of Hanukkah is teaching us to celebrate our need for help, to celebrate our vulnerabilities, to celebrate our mistakes, to celebrate the areas in our life that we're afraid to talk about. And so if we go back to the 4 questions, the first question that we said is, why do we light our Hanukkah candles underneath 10 tefachim and on the left side? There is an idea that we are capable and we're strong, and that's the right side. But we dafka light our candles in the area that we're afraid, that we're scared, that we're lonely, that we're not sure, that we're full of doubts from a world full of a pandemic. We go to that area and we realize that that will define our greatness. You're as great as your lowest link. You're as special as the lack of your fear to enter into the zone that not everyone wants to be a part of. And that's what makes relationships real. Not the celebrations, not the moments that are great, but that we're also able to celebrate our challenges. Baruch Hashem, I've met a couple of people in my life. They're not aware of the fact that spit toothpaste on the floor sometimes. They're not aware of the fact that sometimes I forgot to do the dishes. They're not aware of the fact that sometimes I fall asleep in the middle of a movie with the family. And the people that are aware of that are called Tanya or Eitan, Adiel, and Roni. But the reality is that as much as no other people know about that, maybe now they do because of this sheer, but they love me more than anyone else. And they're totally connected to me. And that is not a default. That's an ideal. That we can be our greatest in our pajamas. That we're not afraid of, not needing to wear a different suit and costume and look our best and our greatest and smear ourselves with all the greatest titles in the world. That we're able to just be honest. That we're seeking greatness, but we're not great. We're looking for Hashem. We're not always connected. And the people that we're really connected to, they're aware of that. And they're with us in those areas. And that's why we light underneath 10 tefachim. It's easy to connect to Hashem where Hashem reveals. But what about the areas that we feel the hiddenness? The challenge of not really knowing, where Hashem is. And that is our celebration. We don't celebrate God's answers. We celebrate our questions. And obviously for many of my Talmidim, they always want an answer. And I always say to them, I don't have any. And my greatest answer is that your question is the answer. Your question is showing that you're on a journey. And you should celebrate that you're on a journey. Celebrate that you're searching and that you're yearning and that you're seeking. Rabbi Rav Kook says that the greatest elevation of redemption is not the redemption itself, but the yearning for redemption. That we're yearning for redemption is what really makes our character. And it makes us create not only our yearning for Beit HaMikdash, but it changes who we are. And the fact that we don't succeed, but that we try is greater than success. Is that we look in a world of success that's above 10 tefachim. But really, success is something that could also be taken away. The only thing that can't be taken away is trying. And that's our real success. What do we try to do? And that's underneath 10 tefachim. That we're trying, and we didn't succeed, but it doesn't stop us. And that's also the concept of the darkest nights of the year. Those aren't times of sadness like Adam Arishon thought at the beginning. They aren't a problem. They're an opportunity. Hashem gave us darkness to become focused. Because in the day we could see so much, but then at the same time we see nothing. Because there's just so much quantity. But at night there's quality. We go on business meetings in the day because it's about quantity. We go on dates at night because it's quality. And although it's dark and it might even be scary, that's where relationships are built. And that's why we light it at the longest nights of the year. And that is why we need a home for Hanukkah. Because at home, we get to recognize that there's a space for our mistakes. The beauty of a home is that you can come home even when you're dirty with mud. You can be in your house even when you're tired and not in your best game. And that is the beauty of Am Yisrael's celebration. Looking back at the Greek culture, saying to them, as much as you think perfect is perfect, perfect is selfish. Perfect means that you want to do it alone and you want to step on everyone else. And we're another. We're a person. We're a link. We're another part, another chapter of the story. We're not the full story. But the beauty of being a chapter of the story is that we get to enjoy others, to hear other stories, to look at other people's stories and celebrate their successes, and to recognize that we can keep trying and not only succeeding. And I feel that this is the core of Emunah and the zchut that I have to work together with them in Kol HaNa'arim in the summers. We walk in and we get to be in a children's home for the month of July. And the secret of what I was taught is that you need to be bored. And so I looked at, the organization, and I was saying to them, to Emunah, to Rabbi Michael, to Rabbi Ezra, I just don't get it. Don't they need experiences? Don't they need, great shiurim, great ideas? And they said, you know what? Everyone is doing that. But who's there in the boring moments? Who's there at night, as we always say, when they want to say, Hamalach HaGoy Eloti, and there's someone that, is just sitting listening? Who are the people that are there to watch you and not just do for you? And so we get that zchut in the summers to go into the homes and be part of normal, be part of real life, be part of the thorns that are part of planting trees. And Emunah is exactly defining that search, that we are demanding. This is what I understand from Emunah, that what it means to believe is to seek the areas of life that people are scared, people are alone, and making them feel like there's someone holding their hands, making them feel like there's someone that's with them in this journey. And I really give us a bracha that we can really recognize the mission statement of Emunah and Kol HaNa'arim, that we can recognize the mission statement of the children's homes that I personally have a privilege to watch. I don't think I've ever had the zchut to do anything. I just get to watch the excitement and also the boring, the challenges and the tears, the dancing and the excitement, and that it all comes together, the difficult sides and the good sides. But that really Emunah puts for themselves a torch to believe in people where they don't believe in themselves. And that should be our bracha this Hanukkah, that we should have the zchut when we're lighting on the left side, underneath 10 tefachim. We're lighting in the darkest time. We're lighting and doing the mitzvah at night, and we're doing it in our homes to recognize that this is the torch and the message. I think of what Emunah is saying to Am Yisrael. Saying to Am Yisrael, find the people that have lost Emunah and give them Emunah. Don't only help the people that have already been helped. Don't seek only the people that are going to say thank you. Find the people that really maybe don't have as many voices, maybe don't have as much, articles in the newspaper, but they are the stories and they are the future of Am Yisrael, Be'ezrat Hashem, שיהיה חנוכה מאיר לכל עם ישראל.